Getting the data out there. Almost there. It's almost there. Maybe 3, 2, 1. Let's hope. There's YouTube. At least YouTube's online. So we know one of the services is online. Facebook is online. And as always, Twitch is coming in last. Why? Why does Twitch take so long to come in? Good morning. Welcome to your Wednesday morning cup of cyber. I had to think about what day it is. Man, I think they all seem to blend together anymore. But today our early coffee is in our Big Sky Country Montana cup. See, there's a little bit of green in there. Always, that's good. You always got to check these cups to see which ones have green in them. That's got a big bunch on the bottom down there. That is crazy. Crazy you don't want your cups like that. Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it? Good morning, Paul. It's good to see you today. Got some stuff in the news. Some stuff is kind of close to the heart as we talk through the stories of the day. As always, a lot going on. It's the 1st of July. Happy July, everyone. Man, I can't believe we're well over halfway through the year already. What a dang crazy 2020 we've had. It's definitely been one for the record books, right? One for the history books. So, while we get going, let's throw up the cutscene, our morning splash intro, and we'll get to the news. Start talking about some stuff. Always the groovy intro. Welcome to your Wednesday. I'm Jim with Cyber-Recon. As always, if you haven't yet, like, comment, subscribe, hit that button right there. Get you to subscribe. There's a button over there. There's a bell over there that you can hit to be notified every single time we go live. It's the way you'll be notified. There's an old name I haven't seen for a while. Dennis Law, good morning. Yeah, Dennis, you are 1,000% right. The company whose name will not be spoken. Dennis, it's funny, in trivia night last Wednesday's trivia night, Betsy was on and we talked about that company and obviously didn't mention the name. The name was never mentioned. It was the company that it's like what's the Hogwarts, right? The Voldemort. You don't say Voldemort's name. That company, you don't say their name either, right? Good to see you, Dennis. Good morning. Good morning, Paul. Got a lot of stuff going on. Got a lot to talk about this morning. First up in the news, Huawei. I'm going to move things around a little bit. Like, I got to move my screens around so I get that out of the way and get the news up so we can sit and chat about it. This is from Reuters. Reuters is talking about Huawei this morning. The FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission, on Tuesday formally designated China's Huawei Technologies Company and also ZTE Corporation as posing threats to U.S. national security. Anybody in the government has known this for a while. It's, we don't do a lot of business with Chinese companies. We don't do a lot of business with foreign companies unless we really, really trust them. What this does, in the past, you wouldn't see a lot of people buying stuff from Huawei. You just wouldn't. It's the government. They don't do that. But this explicitly bars anybody in the government, anyone in the government from buying Huawei or ZTE products. It bars them. It keeps them from about $8.3 billion worth of government funding. So Huawei can't sell to the U.S. government. Obviously, they're selling to governments all over the globe. The telecommunications regulator voted in November 5-0 to issue the declaration and proposed requiring rural carriers to remove and replace equipment from the two Chinese companies from existing U.S. networks. The chairman of the FCC stated, "We cannot and will not allow the Chinese Communist Party to exploit network vulnerabilities and compromise our critical communications infrastructure." Yeah, obviously putting this equipment in, we talked about yesterday. We talked about it quite a bit yesterday with the trusted supply chain. That supply chain we were talking about, the DJI drones, the Mavic drones, and the Phantom Pro drones. You got to question where your supply chain is leading to, where you're buying stuff from. Let's throw some of these comments on there. Obviously, Dennis, good to see you in the virtual world here, in the cyber world. Alex, good morning. Welcome, Dennis. Welcome, support group with friends. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah, Alex, and obviously Alex and I go way back. Dennis and I go way back. We work together, and Alex, we won't ever mention the company, so don't ever ask us. It was supporting the DoD, an organization we really have hearts and minds behind. And then Alex the Shah. Alex the Shah. Good morning. Hey, it's good to see you from Twitch. Are you the one that's been coming in on Twitch? The one viewer we've been trying to see who's been on Twitch. Alex the Shah. Maybe that's you. Good morning. Nice to see somebody from Twitch on the channel. Yeah, we're rolling this morning. So let's break down and start talking about this. Obviously, the why behind this. There's two. We'll talk about the Huawei why. Huawei obviously is a electronics corporation based in China. When I was working up in the hedge fund up in Connecticut, the person that was in charge of all the consultants went off to be one of the security leaders in Huawei and had to go over to like Shenzhen, China, part of the time and work there. Potentially, I had the opportunity to go work for Huawei and really didn't understand what the company was all about. So it was kind of leery about going to a Chinese company, especially with roots in the U.S. government and the intelligence community and DoD. Kind of leery about it, never went over there. Talking to that guy later, glad I didn't. Really was a total kind of messed up show. So I'm glad I didn't go over there. So why do they do this? Obviously, they're a company, they want to sell products. That's one of the things they do. They're selling products. They sell a lot of mobile devices. They sell a lot of telecommunications products. And they're selling them globally. So a lot of European companies and countries are buying Huawei products like crazy. Obviously, the Asian Pacific Rim buying Huawei like crazy. So that's one reason they're doing it. The other reason being everything in China is run by the Chinese government. It would be easy to place malicious code or malicious devices within these Huawei devices and ship them everywhere. So obviously, on our side, from the U.S. side, when the government's buying stuff and when any corporation's buying stuff, we want to be leery about where we're getting our stuff from. And again, we go back to some of the NIST controls we talk about all the time, and this is that supply chain management. And it's really bigger than NIST. It's everywhere now. Every organization should have supply chain management. Know where your stuff's coming from. Know what your contractors are doing. Who are you contracting for work, and where are they coming from? And not only the contractors you're contracting directly, but are they contracting to someone else? And that was a problem in the U.S. a few years ago, where there was requirements on the DoD to only contract to American contractors, outsource to them. But then those contractors would outsource again to someone in another country, which is dangerous. So obviously on the defensive side of this, the thing we want to do, and I say just bigger, it's bigger than the government, right? So this is barring the government from buying Huawei. So legally you can't buy from Huawei. But if you have a U.S. organization, if you're running any organization, if you're running one of these organizations, just don't know where you're getting your stuff from. Buy from a trusted source. And I would say, personally, this is Jim's view of the world, I would say Huawei is not a trusted source because we can't monitor what they put into it. And we know that China wants to get information from the United States and obviously other countries. So that's the why, and the how is just, they are a normal company selling in the normal market. So we got to watch out for these things. You got to know where you're getting your stuff from, especially if you've got sensitive information. I'm not just talking about sensitive government information. I'm talking about sensitive, corporate information or even personal information. Watch out for that stuff. So then there's another company, the FCC voted to deny another Chinese state-owned telecommunications company, China Mobile Ltd., from the ability to operate in the United States, citing risks that the Chinese government could use the company to conduct espionage against the U.S. government. And again, another time I need that pop-up that says, duh. Obviously, that's what they're going to do. Obviously, China is all over stealing our stuff. And Alex, always something. What about the two people coming from Tinder? I think they swiped left or swiped right. I don't know which way Tinder works. But I think Alex maybe does. He knows the way Tinder works. Huawei, man. And personally, I'm going to say don't just limit this to Chinese companies. Remember, there's even folks that we say are our allies. We worry about them conducting espionage. So, Israeli, a lot of countries in Europe, especially France, they're after secrets, and not necessarily state secrets, but they're also after intellectual and trade secrets. So, depending on what your organization does, what your company does for a living, watch out. Watch out what's going on. I don't know if you can hear Piper saying good morning to the neighbors, who obviously shouldn't be walking down the road. That is not something they're allowed to do. Love this next article. This is from the Register, of course. That's why it got its name. Living on a Prayer. Netgear not quite halfway there with patches for 28 out of 79 vulnerable router models. So Netgear's got to a point, and obviously we've got a series coming up where we're going to talk about securing your small office, your home office. A lot of these devices are the devices we're going to see in those small offices and home offices. So there's a list. I was trying to put it in the show notes from Netgear with a listing of these 79 model routers that are vulnerable to this exploit. It's huge because it's allowing root level access remotely, and that's the golden ticket for these attackers. Remote root access, perfect. Mike Bravo, good morning. Way to go, Netgear. So yeah, they put 28 of 79. Dennis, I think you're. What's the vulnerability? We'll get on to that, Dennis. The latest hot fixes come after two models were fixed earlier in June. Vulnerabilities questions: how could we allow the opening of a super user level telnet backdoor, as they reported at the time? They're pushing out their fixes as fast as they can. This thing was supposed to be fixed by June 15th. Back in May, the company asked for an extension till July 15th. We don't know when they're going to get this thing fixed. Who knows? July 15th. That's only 15 days away now. Will it be done? Because they're not even halfway point yet. So here it comes, Dennis. Multiple Netgear devices contain a stack buffer overflow in the HTTPD web servers handling upgrade in the check.cgi, which may allow for unauthenticated remote code execution with root privileges. So that's from Carnegie Mellon. Really, Netgear being one of the companies like Mike and Dennis pointed out, it's not surprising sometimes what these guys do. They really weren't doing anything at all until a company called Grim released some live exploit code for this. Because sometimes that's what has to happen. Sometimes the company will not fix patches until there's something that forces them to do this. And Grim's interesting. Bryson Bort is the guy that founded Grim. when I worked with the folks at the Marine Corps live cyber range, Bryson was there. He had his company was just kind of starting out then. I think he had, maybe less than a dozen people working for him. Now he's a big, big name in cybersecurity. Grim is pretty big out there, and he also does a lot of work with protecting and developing attacks against automotive platforms, our cars, self-driving cars and stuff. Yeah, like Dennis, like your comment. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, it is. So if we think about this, obviously the biggest way we can protect about this, we'll jump ahead to protect, is in these routers, the interface that we configure them with, and we, obviously we haven't got that in our training, our process of securing these things. But we think about it, we can access most of these routers through our web browsers. We go like Google Chrome. We put in there 192.168.1.1. We go to the web interface. That router, along with other things that are built into that router, has a HTTP daemon, a web server living on that router. And when we access the router to configure it, then we can, do all those things like change the SSID, change the password, all the good things we should be doing. There's also a check in there that says, that essentially says, do you want to access the router over the internet? And this can be a good feature. So if I'm managing a group of locations and one of them is maybe remote, so I don't have to go to it, across the internet I can connect to that router and change the settings, change the SSID, put the firewall in place, those kind of things. So there's some good uses for this. But if it's unprotected, like in the case where we've got this buffer overflow, we need to shut down at least that external interface. So when we go into our router, if we're running those Netgear, we can go into the web interface and we can turn off the ability to access the router across the internet. So that should be the first thing we're doing here. Like I said, as soon as the show's over, when I can do it, I'll update the show notes, not only with the story from the register, but also with the link to Netgear where you can check to see if your device is on there. And it's a bit misleading because the story talks about routers, but it's also wireless extenders and other wireless devices that Netgear makes. It's crazy. What you got, Mike? Netgear's history, there's no way I'd ever have one of those for small office, home office, or any other application. I'm with you, and that's one of the reasons when we walk through the process we're going to walk through, from securing just that cable modem we get from the cable company. Must be time to have the weekend already. When we talk about securing just the device we get from the cable company, that's step one. Step two, we're going to go to one of these routers. Netgear is Netgear. I've got a Netgear device. We'll dig it out. It may be even on the list. Maybe we'll see if it's on the list and go through that process. But there are other companies that make them as well. And then obviously when we go to our third level, the basic cable router from the cable company, that's level 1. Or I would even say that's level 0. When we add an additional item, we're talking about this access point from Best Buy or from Walmart or from Amazon, wherever we're getting our access point. That's level 1. And this can be a really cheap router, and a lot of these Netgears, honestly, are cheap. You're gonna go get them for like $50 to $80. Sometimes that's the price you pay. And then when we go to level 2, that's when we're going to build in our Ubiquity network, our actual what we'd expect in a home office or small office. We're talking about the gear we've got is not the most expensive gear. It's going to cost a little bit of money. We're going to talk about some of the cheaper stuff, but the gear we got, about $1,000. For a company, that's not bad to build a secure infrastructure. And with this, then we start breaking some of the devices out. So the access point will be an access point on its own. The Unified Dream Machine will handle the IDS, IPS firewall stuff, as well as controlling those access points and the cameras and that kind of stuff. So the last thing on this Netgear stuff, and I guess that's just going to show our bandwidth, just our stream of where we're at with no money. We can't put any money into our small office, home office. We have to use the equipment that comes from the cable company. Then if we have $100, and then if we have $1,000, what can we do along that price range? I'm going to say 100 is probably the router I would suggest is about $199, because obviously it's not a Netgear. So we'll talk about it. And the one I've got is about 2 years old now or so. We'll talk about newer ones. I'm just not buying another small office, home office router when I've got one. We'll still walk through it. The settings are still the same. Last thing on this Netgear article. We'll talk about the researchers. ZDI's Abdullah Aziz told the Register earlier this month, in most scenarios, the attacker would be able to possibly upload custom backdoor software and establish persistence or launch further attacks like man-in-the-middle attacks. Obviously, this is something you should worry about if you're using one of these devices, if you're using one of these things. Look, not just patch the router, but do kind of a sweep of your entire network to make sure they haven't dropped anything else in there. Again, from my least favorite acronymed organization, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. Again, I think they've stole someone's certification acronym. Encourages users and administrators to update to the most recent firmware version and replace end-of-life devices that are no longer supported with security patches. Netgear says they will still develop a patch for their end-of-life devices, but with their hotfix, how do they word this thing? The latest batch of hotfixes are available on Netgear's website, along with a health warning that full regression testing hasn't been carried out on all the affected devices. And the Register says this translation is, it shouldn't cause problems, but your mileage may vary. This last wording seems to omit the word beta. This is the first version. They're just pushing the patch out as fast as they can. So be cautious if you got those Netgear devices out there. Watch out; they're going to be not so good. Not the best thing in the world. So got a link out there. I'll drop the link after the show in the show notes. Obviously, link to the stories out there if you want to read more from the Register. I'll even drop some information about Bryson Bort if you want to know more about Grim Security, what they're doing out here in Virginia. Apple's on the list again. EvilQuest ransomware encrypts macOS system, but also installs keylogger and reverse shell for full control of affected hosts. There's a threat. We used to think, and I guess we didn't used to think this. Most security folks weren't on board. But there used to be a lot of people that said, I got a Mac, I don't need antivirus, I don't need malware protection. That, for a long time, that was the tagline people talked about. That was, we don't need antivirus. But no, all systems need antivirus. You need some type of malware protection. So this is called OSX.EvilQuest. It's ransomware that's a little different than other macOS ransomware in the past. Obviously, this does the same thing as all ransomware. And D-Nice, I don't know if you're out there, but yeah, this is ransomware. We're going to encrypt the file system. This one also looks for a cryptocurrency wallet, and if it finds one, it's going to steal it. It's going to install a keylogger, and it's going to try to install a reverse shell. A ton of stuff going on here. Really a blended attack. Well, not a blended. It's a blended. It's a blended dropper. It's dropping all kinds of stuff on the infected device. Armed with these capabilities, the attacker can maintain full control of an infected host. Who says that's from Patrick Wardle, principal researcher at Jump. This means if you clean the system up, you probably still have that keylogger. You probably still have the backdoor. They probably still have your crypto wallet. There's a bunch of folks looking into researching this particular piece of malware. Malwarebytes, Mac and Mobile. There's a bunch of people looking at dissecting this thing. Reed and Stokes currently looking for weaknesses or bug in the ransomware's encryption scheme, so they can create a decryptor for it, but it is still open out there. Sounds like a good part of advanced persistent threat. Yeah, definitely getting that backdoor in there, getting that keylogger installed. That's definitely 1000% APT, Dennis. That's spot on, buddy. So how are people getting this? And this goes back to what I've been saying for a long time. If it's too good to be true, it is. So the way they're distributing this is through software that is pirated. So they're also putting in some other software. This guy, DDoS, spotted EvilQuest hidden in software packages called Google Software Update. He found examples of EvilQuest inside pirated version of the popular DJ software Mixed In Keys, and spotted it in macOS security called Little Snitch. Looks like I look at the on the article. This is from ZDNet. The article has a screenshot of Little Snitch, and it's this. I don't know. Is this Russian? Looks Russian. So he says, these are just 3 they looked at, but it's being distributed on many other pirated software titles. So, this is the why they're doing it. Obviously, the why is to infect those systems, to gain persistence, like Dennis said, to gain that advanced persistent threat, to own that botnet, own that system for however long they can, for whatever purpose. Maybe they're going to use it for Bitcoin mining. Maybe they're going to use it for hiring out or renting out attack platforms. Hard to say what these guys do once they get a foothold into these systems and own the systems. But they've got them now. Once they've got that reverse shell, they've got the keyloggers in there, they're probably going to have persistence on there for a long, long time. That's the why. It's about money. It's about money they can make from your infected system. It's about money they can make from your stolen crypto wallet. And the money they can make from encrypting your files and forcing you to pay ransom to get them back. With this one, how do we defend against it? The biggest thing, don't get pirated stuff. Don't pirated music, pirated software, pirated movies. I know they're tempting to a lot of people. I know it sounds too good to be true, because it really is. It really is too good to be true. So don't do that. And again, here's the other soapbox I'm going to get on. If you're that security person for your organization, your group of friends, your family, for whatever reason, you're that security person, tell people, don't download this stuff. Don't try to get free music. Don't try to get free movies. Don't try to get free software. It could cost you way more than just the price of the movie. What's a movie? I think even first-run movies are now, because of COVID, first-run movies are available on cable for $20. So you go get that free movie and it locks your system up. You're going to have to pay a couple $100, couple $1,000 to get your data back, maybe. They're going to totally own your system for probably ever until you can wipe it and rebuild it. It's not worth it. And it's going to be a hard sell. I can't even get that on screen. Come on. Cause is safe. No, Cause is not safe. Pirate Bay, don't do it. Pirate Bay is probably still out there. They keep jumping around and hiding. So after the encryption process ends, the ransomware installs a keylogger to record the user's keystroke, installs a reverse shell so the attacker can connect to the infected host and run commands, and then steal the following type of files, which are usually cryptocurrency wallets. So wallet PDF, wallet PNG, key PNG, and anything .p12. It also drops a weird file in there that tries to rename the Chrome's update mechanism, which the researcher said was kind of crazy because every time the Google update runs, it'll overwrite that with the correct file. So I'm not sure why that's there. The article from ZDNet also includes as always, a copy of the ransomware note that's readmenow.txt. So when you go to log into your system, everything is encrypted except for this one file. So we know the how. We know the kind of why. We know how to protect ourselves. The other thing is defense in depth. Have malware protection. Have that antivirus. some type of malware protection. Even if you're on a Windows machine, which I know 80-90% of the people are on Windows system, it's free, Windows Defender. If you can't afford anything else, run Windows Defender. It's pretty decent. Hook. Arg. Talking about pirates there, Mike, and Alex. Excellent. The how, perfectly described. As to how the vulnerability will be exploited in real life. Perfect. That's your direction, Alex. You got us going on this path to the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those kind of things we should know about these articles. And that's it. Just the point of this show, like we said yesterday. Get the security folks together. Give us a chance to talk about these articles in the morning. Arm each other to go out and face the day with the end users, the project managers, the system owners that are going to tell us that security is not important. Back each other up and talk about these things: the who, what, where, when, why, how, and then share some common stories if we can. So, if you got a Mac, I'm a big fan of Mac. That's why I went with Ubiquity when I decided to build the small office, home office stuff, because we want to build a system that is going to be easy to maintain. Ubiquity is easy to maintain. It works like Mac because it's founded by a guy that used to work for Mac. And then when we start showing the packaging, you'll see it looks like Mac packaging. When you connect things, things work together, just like a Mac. Things work together. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, "Man, you gotta be on Linux. You gotta be on other things." Mac's a Linux. I'm gonna still stand by that. Alex, we'll throw that up on the screen. I think newbies. I think way more than newbies. I think all of us need to understand the how, what, when, where, and who. I think all of us need to understand that. But you're right, especially if you're new to the field. You need to know that. Know that why is this important to me? I think Unice pointed out the other day is we were talking about whether the ransomware yesterday was ransomware or not. I think there's this distinction a little bit there because it was ransomware because they were asking for money. So I totally agree with what he said. But that's why we talk in the morning. That's why we get together. Oh, yeah, binary Chrome file being overwritten, thinking it was hooked for controlling subroutines. But it should have been more clear. Good point, Mike. Should have been more clear that it's being overwritten first by the infection and then by when Google actually runs the updated overwrites. But you're right, it may be, they are trying to get that built correctly. Maybe it just with proof of concept it's not working right, and they are trying to get a hook into Chrome for controlling. Yeah, that's a good point. See, that's right on target what we're talking about, So the binary in Chrome may be just the first attempt at it. Maybe they're working to figure out how to get it working, and it could be a hook later for controlling subroutines and all those extensions that you can put on Chrome. If you could get in there right, great point, Mike. If you could get in there right, you could not only get your hooks into actual Chrome, but some of those most popular extensions people are running. And maybe if Chrome gets cleaned up, you're still hanging out in one of the extensions. Tell me about it. I'm not saying I'm an old pro, but I'm definitely old. I definitely need refreshers all of the time. So, if you got the Mac, that's what we should be looking at. Or Coda. Nexus Guard is in the news too, not for something bad they're doing, but they were doing some investigation of distributed denial of service attacks. They're up. There's a jump of 542% from fourth quarter 2019. A huge jump. And this it really ties into we're working from home more. There's more connections across the internet. So many more people are coming in, remote access. So cyber criminals have attacked this work from home pattern that we're on everywhere. And now they're not only doing these large distributed denial of service attacks, where an ISP or something like that is knocked off the internet. Now they're doing much smaller attacks. And they're saying that the folks at Nexus Guard are saying that the range is between 1 gigabit per second, wow, and 5 gigabit per second. Basically shorter than 15 minutes and create fewer than 200 events per day. They're smaller. It's just the low and slow approach. Low and slow approach to trying to knock things off the network. And we know there's a number of reasons why we're going to do things like this. Denial of service and distributed denial of service, it can take, there's a bunch of whys, why people do this. Why does the attacker do this? One could be to knock a competitor off the line. That's probably right at the top. Either knocking a competitor off the line or hacktivism. Now, those are huge reasons why we do denial of service. People trying to make a point about something, they're going to knock someone off the line. So maybe you don't believe in things like the Second Amendment or people's ability to buy guns. Maybe you're going to attack the NRA site. Something like that. You've got a hacktivist agenda behind it. Another reason we might do this is if we understand that certain devices will fail in an unsecure manner. So if we can knock a service over and it's going to allow us access to that device or that network, that may be a reason that the attacker is going to do it. We'll launch a denial of service against that device or that network or that host, a website or something like that, and we'll try to knock it over. Maybe we're going to try to exploit something like DNS or something like that. So yeah, that's the why. And the how is, again, if we can get a bunch of, well, first let's unpack the two different types of denial of service. We have normal denial of service. That's one user, one computer trying to knock something over, trying to deny access to, say, a website. And it would have to be a pretty small website for one person to be able to take it offline. Or a device like a DNS server. We take it offline. We just got to flood it with information. But distributed denial of service, we take a whole bunch of systems and point it at that one system, or we point it at that one DNS box, and we overwhelm it. Then we may get it to crash. And that's why sometimes these attackers will use other exploits, like the ones we just talked about, where we get that backdoor on a bunch of machines, and then we use a C2 node, a command and control node, and we tell them all attack this one website at the same time, or attack this one DNS box at the same time. That's the how and the why. Defense against denial of service is really hard. If you're an organization, maybe you have multiple IP addresses, maybe you have load balancers, maybe you have different ISPs supporting your environment. Maybe you just have great big old huge honking pipes and great big servers. It's hard to defend against denial of service. There are some companies that specialize in this now using Amazon technology to spread network access and to kill connections that appear to be coming from a denial of service attack. So if there's an attack coming in, some of these protective measures can drop those connections. If they see it looks like a denial of service attack, they can just drop them. They never get to your network. So there's ways we can protect against it. It's one of the harder things to defend against, because in a distributed denial of service, that attack could be coming from anywhere, any system that's infected. And if you're hosting a website like an e-commerce website, it's really hard to say, don't let people into my e-commerce website, because we need those people to come in and buy stuff. So it's a hard one to defend against. So we have to look to sometimes external providers. Dennis got disgruntled employees, seen that one. I think Mike's got a comment here. Yeah, insider threats are dangerous. I agree. Insider threats are awful. I think we're on the last story we're talking about. Load balancing, round robins. Yeah, running that stuff around. We talk a little bit. We had a video. I'll throw that a link up there later. There's a video we talk about load balancers and things like that. But you're right. We got it. That's the only way we're going to talk about this. That's really the only defense. Other than that, especially if we've got our own server, if we're hosting a server on our own and we don't have a big budget to protect it, there's likelihood that your denial of service can knock you offline. So if they're targeting something like the VPN concentrators you have, or even the load balancers that are sitting on the outside of your VPN concentrators, and they attack those, it would be hard for your employees to connect in and go to work, right? So that's the skinny of it. The big point is it's a jump 542% from fourth quarter of 2019. Huge increase. I think a lot of it can be tied to COVID, obviously. Nexus Guard, they get their name for a good reason, and we get to reuse our same credit card image from yesterday. This is a pretty good article, and it's Krebs on security. Of course, it's going to be good. So, talking about the COVID-19 breach bubble waiting to pop, and obviously, most folks in security know about card skimming and the exploitation of databases of credit cards and things like that. But essentially, let me roll down to these two terms because they're easy terms, but I seem to have forgotten them. Where are we at? You'd be like, how could you forget that? Where is it? Essentially, there's two different types of data we're gathering. Okay, maybe we'll have to come back to it because I'm not going to spend a lot of time searching for it. We'll get to it as we talk through the article. So, Gemini Advisory, a New York-based cyber intelligence firm, the class that tracks the inventories of dark web stores selling credit card payments. See, there's a decline. There, it's right there at the top. There's a decline in the demand for card-present data. So this is card-present. There's two types of data that the attacker's going after. There's card-present data and the card-not-present data. So card-present data is the data that's stolen when someone takes your physical credit card and steals the information from the magnetic stripe. That is sold on the dark web one way, and then card-not-present data is that data like when you go to Amazon and you buy something and they never get they never get your card, you never get your physical card. So the advisory says there's been a 50% decrease in demand for compromised card-present data. So brick and mortar stuff, and if we think about this, it makes sense because normally the folks that get this card-present data create fake credit cards and then they go into stores and they buy stuff. Whereas people that steal card-not-present data normally buy stuff online. There's a whole big chain about how they get away with that. So they've realized there's this drop in demand. So the point is the amount of people or the amount of folks that are selling card-present data on the internet remains steady. And they cite this because normally when they post the card-present data for sale, it's usually months or quarters or maybe even years after they've stolen it because they're trying to release it in kind of like the diamond people do. They gather it all up and they only release it in a small stream, so they keep the price high. So the amount of card-present data, it remains constant. It hasn't gone down any, even though there's not a lot of people going into stores because of COVID-19. Not a lot of people going into stores to buy stuff, so the supply has stayed up and the demand has been cut in half. So if you look at the article on Krebs on security, it looks like the cost of a card-present data record in last year, about December of last year, was about $13. You could buy a card-present data and then obviously have someone make you a credit card and go use it. Now that's down to looks like about $6, $5.50. So you can see that going down. But as the article kind of alludes, this is a bubble, right? As we move through time, there's going to be less of that card present data available because less people, for the last quarter, less people have been out shopping, out eating, and that kind of stuff. And now we're starting to see people going out again. So we got kind of the reverse of the situation. Now we're going to have not a lot of card present data available on the dark web, but we're going to have a lot more people out shopping. So the ability to use that fraudulently, that card present data fraudulently, is going to be, there's going to be higher demand. So we're going to see the trend reverse, and we're probably going to see a spike in the price of them. So it's probably going to drive, in my mind, it's going to drive the demand for card present data up. So more attackers, more people in this line of work are going to do it. We're going to see skimmers and bank, the fake cards on, or the fake input devices on ATMs and that kind of thing. The article goes, it's also really hard to track this card not present data because it comes from a lot of different places, where the card present data, we can often point that back to a location where several people have had their cards data stolen. So if, say, for example, you go to a restaurant and that waiter or waitress is skimming credit cards, the folks that investigate the fraud can, over time, put that puzzle together and point back to that specific restaurant. People will say, okay, here's my records. They'll start examining the records, and they'll put the commonality of that restaurant in place. So they're not able to, with this card not present data, they're not able to do that because the sales are kind of all over the place. And sometimes it's not a transaction-based theft. It's the breach of a database, and that database information could be from all over the place, and they're just going to use that they don't need the card present data. Bratt says that there is folks that hackers are establishing what he's calling beachheads, and the folks at Krebs says maybe breachheads, where they're putting their malware in place on point of sales devices in these small retail locations, and they're kind of waiting. They're not doing anything with it now. Maybe they're collecting the information, but they're not posting it to the dark web. So the assumption is that once this the trend moves along further to the right, where we say there's going to be more demand for card present data, and there's going to be less of it available, we're going to see that bubble break, and we're going to see a lot of people wanting to get this information. So it's probably going to be more demand. That means more people are going to probably be doing it. So that's we talk about these things. That's the how of this one is there's a couple ways that they're getting the card present data. One of them is obviously the old school skimmer. Someone holds a skimmer in their hand. They run it through while they're running your credit card. Could be a device on an ATM. We always look for those. And it could be an actual infection of the point of sale machine, like that machine at the cash register. It reminds me of an old story, an old security story of a store in England. The security guard that was working there realized that his cell phone, at a certain time of day, his cell phone it wasn't working. It wasn't able to get good connection. It wasn't able to do a lot of things at a certain point in time during the day. And when they started looking into it, because it would happen regularly, happened every day at the same time. And what they ended up finding out when they did some research on this is that the point of sale machines in the store, and I don't know how many they were, but they were all built, funny enough, they were all built in China, and they would collect the information and store it locally. And once a day, they would dial out to command and control node that would tell them what to do, and they would also transmit all of their credit card data to the command and control node. So while that security guard was hanging out on his phone every day, all these point of sales devices, and I guess it's not smart by the attacker to do this, they all phoned home at the same time. So they would all jump on the network, they would all send data out, and it would affect this guy's ability to play, I don't know, Bejeweled or something. I don't know what it was at the time. So they're able to track it back. They started looking into it, and they took one of the point of sale devices apart, and they realized that there was an extra board in there that was set up to capture credit card information and then send it out later. So that's kind of how there's a bunch of ways they can do the how on this card present data. The card not present data, obviously that could be malicious code put into an online shopping cart, or it could be an attacker breaching an entire credit card database, which is why we have that PCI controls around a lot of the credit card folks. So that's the how. The why is obviously this should be easy. The why is money. So normally the folks that steal the information, they're going to sell it on the dark web. They're going to sell it to someone who's going to use it to buy things to make money. One of the classic ways that folks do this online, at least, and it's sponsored a lot by Russian hacking groups, is the Russian hacking group will set up a pharmacy. And it's a legitimate Russian pharmacy, which I guess legitimate would be air quotes in Russia. And then that pharmacy would be set up to sell stuff. And then they would also buy a bunch of stolen credit cards. And then over the internet, they would buy stuff from the pharmacy. The pharmacy would never ship it, but the pharmacy would process the transaction, and then we'd get the money from there. So there's kind of a bit of a buffering, bit of air gap in a way from, the pharmacy can say, we didn't know if they get caught. And then hopefully the piece where they were creating the transactions, if that gets caught, hopefully that just folds up and goes away. Normally they hire people to do that. The other way we do it, we see this card present data, is people will create fake credit cards, and they'll use that card present data to go into a store and buy stuff. And sometimes they'll buy it and then return it and get the cash value. Sometimes they'll just buy it and sell it on someplace like Amazon or eBay. So one of the classic ones was if you saw something on eBay or something, Craigslist, brand new camera, still in wrapper. And you go, oh, that'd be great. It's like half the price of whatever. You send the money to that person, and then what they would do is they'd use a stolen credit card. They would buy it brand new from Amazon and have it shipped to your house. That way they'd get your money, and if something happened, the cops are coming to your house because that's where the camera got shipped to. It took a while to figure that one out. So that is, I think, our last cyber story of the day. Our day today is Canada Day. In the show notes below, we've got the link to the actual Canada website that has some virtual celebration information. It's Canada Day. It used to be called Dominion Day before they got their independence, became a Commonwealth of the Great Britain. Started in 1867, the Confederation of the Upper and Lower Canada, and some maritime provinces joined the Dominion of Canada. Canada became a self-governing country on July 1st, 1867, with the passage of the British North American Act in the British Parliament. The holiday was originally known as Dominion Day and was changed to Canada Day by the Parliament on October 27, 1982. And the U.S., here's your fact of the day. The U.S. and Canada share the largest undefended border in the world. Let's see. When time, at the end of the day, please explain. Production schedule, EPI 204, management role 7.1 today. Seems also 7.1. Yeah, great point, Alex. You always keep me on track. As every great plans are just, plans are great till what's Tyson's thing? Everybody's got a great plan till you get punched in the face. That's the plan. Stuff is coming out. It'll come out today. It'll probably come out later today because it has to go through edit and then posting. So it'll be out today. The plan is they'll be out in the morning, but it's probably going to take us this first week of this new schedule, getting the class course. Okay, getting the videos out will happen. It's probably just going to be a little later today, but it will be today. The production schedule, the way the production schedule is supposed to work, and if you need to look at the production schedule, it's on cyber-recon.com under About Us, the July production schedule. There's 3 that should come out today. SIEM, Security, Information and Event Management, management roles, and there's one IT Fundamentals. I think I'm not sure what the IT Fundamentals one is. So right now, let us get through the first week of the schedule to get it kind of worked out. lot more stuff on there than we normally have because we're pushing out essentially 3 videos a day plus the Cup of Cyber. So ton of stuff going on. So we're working through the kinks. So great point, Alice. I'm glad you brought it up. They will be out today, probably later today, but the goal is for them to be out in the morning. That's our end goal, and it may take us a week or two to get to that point. So they are coming. Let's see. Remember when we were invited to visit Canada? We're not allowed. Oh, remember when we were invited to Canada when we're not allowed in? Can we get in Canada now? No, a lot of places, a lot of the European countries won't let us in because of the COVID stuff. Yeah, no, and now you got to have a passport to go there anyways. When I was a kid, I grew up in Montana, so when I was a kid, we would just drive to Canada. It was like driving to Idaho. I lived in Montana, so we'd drive up. They had ice cream made with real cream, which was worth the trip, just a road trip up there. Yeah, some people are new, so they don't know how things work. Talking about the production schedule. Yeah, the production schedule is new to us, and yeah, so the production schedule is new. We've always had a schedule we worked on. This is the first time we've published it, and we've actually expanded what we're going to do. So, as you know, if you've been around, you know that Jimmy works kind of part-time getting the editing done. Mako and Emily come in and help wrap everything up, get everything posted. And it's going to take a minute to get the process working right. We get the process working. It's just normally we're doing a Cup of Cyber and then a video or 2 a day. This is really going to drive it up. And the reason we're driving it up is to get more content out there. There's been a lot of call for the RMF stuff. A ton of people asking for that. So we're into Domain 2, heavily into Domain 2 of Security Plus. IT Fundamentals Plus is a good one. I wanted to include that because for those folks coming into the field, like you said, Alex, those new folks that are coming into the field, sometimes they don't know the things like, how's an IP work or what is IEEE. That's a big one. That's one I wanted to cover too, is IEEE. And then obviously the small office, home office stuff, that's outside the track, and that's happening. You'll see that one on like Saturday and Sunday. So I think we've got Security Plus runs. I've actually got a copy of the schedule here. Yeah, Security Plus runs 7 days a week because there's so much content in that. We want to get that one done and people ready to go. Working on directing people to Cyber-Recon site. Great deal of effort. Not too great. Oh, this is too great of an effort not to share with. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it 1,000%. And it's like I always say, this is a passion because I'm getting older and we need more people in the field. We need more qualified people in the field. And you guys know that. You're out there fighting the good fight every day. It's what we got to do. So, yeah, there's a bunch, and we're a little bit ahead on PowerPoint for Security Plus. The other one, set up and install peripheral devices was the ITF, IT Fundamentals one for today. This is where we talk about all the different kinds of connectors and that kind of stuff. That one actually might be out tomorrow because there's a lot of demo of different connection types. So I think you guys are more interested in the RMF and the Security Plus. But that's it. On that point, getting ready for the small office, home office one. Last night, before we had it broke down for dinner, we put together the rack for the small office, home office environment. Awesome, Dennis. Get them folks watching. There's a wide swath, and Dennis, you know how many people we need in this field. You know the shortages out there. We got the rack together last night, and we recorded it. We're going to turn that into a time lapse, so you don't have to watch us do this for like an hour building this rack out. But it was a good process. So here's the rack. Here's the rack we put together, and don't mind all the stuff behind it. That's all the packaging and stuff. So this is a 12U 19-inch rack. You can see the power supply on top of it and the patch panel behind it there. When we talk about the small office, home office build, The rack is one of the extra things. And Alex, I know you're going to ask me. I'll get the link to this rack and put that in the show notes below. Obviously, it's going to be one of our affiliate links because if you're going to pay the same amount through Amazon or through our link, I obviously want you to buy through our link because then we get a little percentage, and we really haven't used that as much as we should have. But this is a nice, decent priced 12U rack. So all of our equipment will go in here. I think this was like $200. So it locks, and the panels come off 3 sides of this thing. So it's a little bit easier to put together. So the right and left side come off. The front is lockable, and it comes off as well. And it's got a cool bracket. You can hang this from the wall. And you just center it on the studs, drive this bracket into the studs, and then you hang this thing on the wall, kind of like a picture frame, and then secure it with some screws. It's really a nice little device. It's not going to be your $500 rack. It's not your $1,000. You can buy a lot of really nice racks. Black Box makes a ton of racks that you're going to spend $500 to $1,000 on. We didn't do that. First of all, I can't afford it, honestly. And second of all, I assume other people can't afford it. So this is going to be outside our. So this is a device. This is a piece of equipment that's outside of our $1,000 budget. So I said we had for our network build out, we're capping it at $1,000. This is outside that because you don't need it. You can set your network device up on a table somewhere if you have to, on a shelf somewhere if you have to. If you can go the extra mile, if you can get the couple hundred extra dollars, because all in, probably that equipment over there was maybe $300 because it's got a 12 plug, not UPS, surge protector, commercial grade surge protector, and it's got a 24 port patch panel. Two reasons I know a lot of people can go back and forth on patch panels. Do we use them or not? I wanted to have one so folks can see how you wire them up, because I don't see a lot of explanation on wiring up patch panels, and that Mako and Emily can get, and Jimmy too if he comes. He's got to come up from down south, but get experience in punching down patch panels. It's a great skill to have if you're going to go to work. Because there's always, wire dogs. Back in the Army, you call them wire dogs. Go and run that wire, run the cable. So if you haven't done an RJ45 connector in a while, the connectors are awesome. Now they're pass-through. So the wires go all the way through. You can check the colors on the other side. You can make sure they're all the way connected before you crimp the connector, and it cuts them off. I'm going to show you this thing. It's from an old guy like me where we used to have the closed end RJ45, and you had to shove it in there and make sure it was all the way in there, and it stayed straight, and then you crimped it, and then you tested it, and it was no good, and you cut the end off, and you started over. Not anymore. These new ones are cool. So RJ45s came a long ways. We got to show that pass-through process. I want to show how to punch down, and I think that the rack's a nice way to go, but you don't have to have it. That's going to be one of the extra things. Planning emailing 2 to 3 people a day, stating what Cup of Cyber is and pointing them to Cyber-Recon. Awesome. We appreciate the support, Alex. 2 to 3 people a day is easy, not an email blast. Yeah, people definitely ignore email blasts. No, definitely, if we have, we have 6 people on YouTube right now, and then we have Alex on Twitch. This is great. I mean, this is awesome to have this interaction, just to be able to communicate. And the more people we can get in here, obviously the more viewpoints we have, the more we can talk about. But I definitely don't want to spam a bunch of people and get a bunch of people in here that just are going to show up and then run away. Rumor is Bravo has a 58U rack in his basement. Any truth to that? I bet Bravo. I know Bravo's got a rack, that's for sure. Mikey, I know you got a rack up there. All daisy chained. Let's see. Making RJ4. You know what I meant. Cat 6. Yeah. Mixed cassette tape. Like making mixed cassette tape. Yeah, it was like, I went to grab some cabling out to build this. So we have to build, the jumper cables for the rack. We're going to run new cabling for the access points when we build this thing out. I went to grab some cabling, and it's all Cat 5. I was like, well, if we're going to do this, let's get the Cat 6. I think we're Cat 6A or E or whichever one it is. Yeah, not making. You're right. Not making RJ45 wires, RJ45 connectors for sure. But they're. I'm gonna have to. We'll have to do something so you can do a close up. It's the wires just. You cut them long and you push them through, and they come out the other side. You can double check your colors and then crimp them, and the crimper cuts the stuff off. It is likened to making a mixed cassette tape. My favorite throwback hits from 1990 for sure. But we're gonna make them. We're gonna make the real, and I've made plenty. I'm looking at one right here where I made a little short cable and didn't, it's got the ugly connection. It's only connected by the wires. The sheathing didn't go all the way in, so it didn't get that lock on the sheathing. Bad cabling practices. So these new ones, a lot better. And a cool thing about them is, now you buy the RJ45 connectors, and they've got the cool little boot that slides over them, makes them look very professional. So we're going to do things the right way so that, if you go to do this for a job, if you go out there and do a network security job, you can go in there, and if they give you a handful of RJ45 connectors that have the closed end, you can be like, dude, what are you in 1950? What is this, 1990 all over again? We need some pass-through RJ45 so we can do more efficient with this. Yeah, mixed tape, Alex. I agree with you. Yeah, Dennis. Making those cables, it's never fun. It's I think we had more ends cut off on the floor than we had cables made. Back in the old days, you didn't know if it was good or not until you crimped it down. The bad old days. So that's where we're at. Good to see you, Dennis. Good to see everybody else out. Alex, Paul, Mike, and Alex from Twitch. Glad to see Twitch folks on there. Time to do what do we say, Mike? What do we say at the end? Obviously, I throw my line in there. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Hit that button over there. That'll subscribe. You hit the bell to be notified when new stuff comes out. Mike's going to tell you, go get some, because that's what we say here. Go get some, right, Mike? Full day. We got to take it on. This is like we're over the hump now for most people. Friday's off. Friday's the day off for a lot of people. There we go, Mike. Go get some. Great things ahead. We got to go secure the world, right? No ranks here. Got I think typing is getting you more. No racks there, Dennis. That what you're saying? 1,000 virtual box the size of a modem. That's what I figured. That's what I figured you meant rack. Yeah. Tell me about that. We have to talk about that, Dennis. 1,000 VMs. That's a lot of VMs, man. All right, but that's it. Let's wrap this thing up. Let's go get out and have a good day. Be safe out there, like I always say, and we'll see you tomorrow. Go get some.